Hi, everyone. I'm Sal Bardo. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I'm here with some of the filmmakers and cast members of our Boys Shorts program. Um, it's really the program that people look forward to every year. It's one of those programs, and I feel really excited to be a part of it for that reason. The films that I'm drawn to most at Outfest are the ones that make us look at each other and ourselves in a new light, and all of your films achieve that. But I want to start with the Cipher, because homophobia in hip hop is obviously, it's a very thorny issue, and I just wondered what made you want to explore this topic. Maybe let's start with Latia and then Wes.
Sure. So the Cipher was a film that's a part of USC's one of their thesis options in order to graduate from the MFA program. And so I had to pitch myself as a director, and I saw Wes's amazing script. And so we kind of paired ourselves together and we pitched it, and then we got selected as one of three for that semester to film this project. And immediately I was drawn to just the intersectionality of being queer, being a person of color, and also being a part of the hip hop community, because especially with battle rap, so it's a freestyle competition. In that environment, kind of anything goes, and you kind of have to be on your P's and Q's at all times, because if there's a fault, if there's a lag in your delivery, then you're done for, and your street credibility is everything. And so if in that environment, there's a certain kind of representation of masculinity, and if that's either threatened or seen a little bit different, it could actually jeopardize your career as a rapper or as an artist. So I just saw this marginalized experience, marginalized type of experience in the world is something I have identified as an African-American woman. And I have many close family members and friends that have gone through a similar experience. So that journey of self-acceptance is something I really identified with.
Great. Wes, do you have anything to add about some of your motivations for wanting to tell this story?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in Queens, New York, and so hip hop was like a huge part of my life. And as I was sort of coming to terms with my own queer identity, I became just very sort of aware of, the extent to which hypermasculinity is so prevalent in hip hop, and the ways in which queer Black men are allowed to exist in that space were very few and far between, and little to none. And so just this project really kind of was born out of my curiosity to just explore that conversation just within our own community, and why we sort of have these very sort of stringent rules for gay Black men, and why they are kind of restricted from participating in that space in the ways that other Black men are not. And so that was what this film kind of was inspired by, and I kind of pulled from just my experiences and the experiences of other queer Black men in my life, and infused it all into this freestyle battle situation, and it ended up kind of just becoming something bigger than I thought it would be, and I'm just really glad to see the response to it.
Great. Nigel, as an actor, what drew you to this project?
Hi, everybody. For me personally, as Wes said, there are very seldom times in which, you get to see nuance in that of a queer Black male, especially within the world of hip hop, and the hypermasculinity that comes with it and whatnot. So, and then for myself, I'm always looking for ways to, I guess, stretch myself with every role that I do, whether it be Shakespeare, and I come from a theater and, stage background and whatnot. So I had never done something such as this. I like to, for me personally, the way that I kind of made the role make sense in my head was kind of like, okay, 8 Mile meets Moonlight. All right, now go, and so it just worked for me. And then not to mention, having such an amazing writer such as Wes and Latia as our captain, leading the ship. It was just, such an organic experience for me. And so I loved it. I loved attacking it.
Yeah, I think 8 Mile meets Moonlight is a really great way to capture the film. Noah, the film uh, felt like something new, at least for me, in terms of the POV, two transmasculine characters in an open relationship grappling with questions, of am I enough, which is such a universal feeling. And to see it transposed this way was, I think, really important. So how did this story come about?
I mean, this is a good question for both of us because we co-wrote it and we're real life partners. And it came about after, a lot of discussion about non-monogamy and queerness and desirability. And do you want to?
Yeah, I think as two transmasculine people in a relationship ourselves, I think, and also having navigated transition over the course of our relationship, there are different kinds of expectations that we sort of encountered from the outside, and also shifting expectations of each other, and perceptions and ways in which desire shifts over time. And so we really wanted to explore that and to add nuance to those kinds of conversations about what it means to be a queer transmasculine person.
So, Garcia, can you share a little bit about your experience working as an actor right now? Or specifically
right now, today?
Well, just, with everything that's going on in the world, and also with, trans actors and queer actors, and what was your experience specifically on this project?
I don't know if that was one question or multiple. Okay. Hi, I'm Garcia. I can't speak for everyone. I can only speak for myself and my experience. So I'll just say that first and foremost, as a queer, trans, also non-binary person of color from the South Side of Chicago, that being here and being in a film like this is very, very different than what a lot of people would expect from back home. It's hard to, it's nice to come across an opportunity that Noah and Arnold provided, because it's limited as a lot of people can relate to when it comes to trans mass folks. I've been learning, I think the field is still navigating that as well. I think it's always constantly in the works. It inspired me definitely to more so to want to create my own work, because the more I wait on anybody else, it's not gonna come. At least it won't come as fast as we all need it to. And I think that goes for all queer, non-queer, bi, POC. I don't know if that's answering your question. But yeah, I'm just really grateful for the experience, and right now just focused on creating more work and opening doors for others, but also just storming through the ones that are graciously being open to me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it was an open-ended question, but I think that your answer really, I think, touches on what I was getting at, which is as actors, when we're working on projects, sometimes, actors get cast in parts, but I think that this particular film felt so personal. So it was interesting to me to hear from all of you about that. I thought it was a really poignant, well done film. So moving on to Sam, I found this to be a really sweet story. And Aaron, Eli, can you tell us a little bit about where the idea came from?
Yeah, so we were working with young adults with learning disabilities drama workshops, and we were kind of asking them about what stories they wanted to see on screen, what they felt kind of wasn't told in terms of representation with young people with disabilities in the UK today. And the one thing that kept coming up was sexuality. A lot of people felt that sexuality wasn't represented, that some people felt that they almost weren't seen to have a sexuality because they had a disability. And especially in terms of kind of LGBT on top of that, is another thing that they felt wasn't visible. So from doing those drama groups, we kind of wanted to tell a story that gave a little bit of visibility to an issue that we felt really passionate about.
But also that was, like you said, like that was sweet and also funny and kind of went on a journey and wasn't necessarily about this is a person with a learning disability. It's a person that falls in love with another person.
Yeah, and to that point, the humor, I think, played a big part in the chemistry between the two actors. So Sam and George, what was the experience like for you guys to work together? George, let's start with you.
Okay. So basically, I really loved filming the film. It was really nice to show sexuality and to show the representation of learning disabilities as well, because not many actors with a learning disability are being represented. So that needs to be shown to the wider audience, which is rather important as well.
Thank you. Sam, what about you?
Yeah, it was just amazing to be part of such an amazing project. I've always been a carer for my younger brother with cerebral palsy, and it was so lovely to have not only the integrity that we have within the film, and but also off screen as well. Like to see him come up and be operating the camera and stuff was really beautiful, and to be able to work with George as well is absolutely fantastic. I mean, literally all you see on camera is just how me and George were on our breaks. I mean, he's such a laugh, and I totally love working with him, and he's a total lead, and he's fab. So it was just an amazing experience all around, and great to, like George says, bring that representation to screen. And as long as one person sees it and goes, oh, okay, I feel like I can go up and do that job now, I don't feel like that's inaccessible for me, then we've done our job.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, to your point, that's what I was saying in the beginning, is that films that make us look at ourselves differently, look at each other differently, and realize, what we can do, and what other people can do, I think is really amazing. Team Ira, as you obviously know, there's an entire generation of queer youth who lost potential mentors to AIDS. How much did that inform the story you wanted to tell?
Thank you for the question. It's quite direct in this case because Uncle Ira is inspired by my Uncle Barry, who died of AIDS when I was 3. And so the whole premise for this short existing is me imagining, well, what if a kid like me were 16 in the summer of 1991 when he died instead of 3, and got to have a conversation that I never got to have with my uncle. And I think that idea of queer mentorship is so important because we don't enter the queer community the same way we enter, say, the Jewish community, with the bar mitzvah, mazel tov, except some of us almost had that opportunity. And I really miss, I regret not having that. And so Last Summer with Uncle Ira is the imagination of what that could be. So that's the root of it.
That's great. Igby, there's so much subtext in that scene between Daniel and Ira, and so much happening between the lines. How did you guys approach that as actors?
Well, so for me, the subtext was really interesting because it was almost an internal battle that I had to experience growing up. So sort of getting back into that place and really thinking about, well, how did I feel? And, what could I say? What couldn't I say? And when would I say it, or how do I express that was really interesting. And then working with Wayne made it incredibly easy because he's so great to bounce off of. And he really we both kind of picked up on each other's vibes and when things were playing back and forth. So, I mean, I think we just kind of accomplished it in the moment of filming.
So who can predict what will move you? Is it really sensual, almost tactile film? Livia, can you tell me what you wanted audiences to feel while watching it?
Yeah, I wanted audiences to feel like the sense of like a New York night, which is
both fleeting and also feels like it takes forever, to kind of reinforce like those relationships you have, especially when you're young, that you feel like you can't define, but which you kind of retroactively still think about and remember.
Yeah, that's a really beautiful way to put it. I think, like I said, it had such a, for lack of a better word, just a really tactile, atmospheric feeling to it. And for the actors, Sammy and then Condor, how did you get involved in the project?
I actually got involved because I had a friend that's friends with Livia who told me that Livia was specifically looking for an Asian, quote unquote, male actor for a role. So I looked at the script. I saw that it was a narrative that involved two friends that were Asian and kind of have a close connection with each other, but it's not totally like you're not really exactly sure like what the connection is, if it's friendship, if it's more. And I just kind of loved how a lot of the script was about kind of the word. To me, a lot of it is the words that are unsaid. It's kind of, you know, on screen you see a lot of the ways that they just look at each other, kind of, you know, stare at each other from across the room. A lot of it's, you know, in body language. And I just really loved how the story was kind of intimate and was beyond just kind of, it, you know, it was just very like handcrafted and like very like nuanced. And it was my first time ever acting actually in a project. But I went and auditioned with Livia for actually Condor's role. But when we read the script, I think I kind of fell more, Livia kind of saw me better for my character. And then we did a read through with Condor and things just really kind of fell into place really quickly. I think with a matter like of a week or two. And I'm honestly so blessed to be part of this. And this was my first project ever. And it just meant a lot to me as a queer, non-binary Asian person living in Brooklyn, New York, to kind of show a story that I can just slip my own personal experience into. I didn't feel like I had to overact and be a character that I didn't know. I felt like it was very easy for me to slip in because I knew kind of where this character comes from.
You said this was your first project? Your first
Yeah.
film?
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing, amazing. What about you, Condor?
Yeah, so I had approached Livia for a different project, but then when she came up to me about this script, I really loved just how subtle and nuanced it was. It was, I think, very different from other projects I had done in the sense that, like, for the role that I was playing in Who Can Predict, the character just felt very natural for me to slip into. And then working with Sammy, I think probably up until that date, it was just the experience in being in character and shooting it with the crew and the cast was probably the most the most natural one for that. It felt very, very unforced and just very authentic and genuine. And I really appreciated that. I think I was very lucky and thankful to be a part of that project because of that.
Great. Tyler, I really love the simplicity of See You Soon. It captures a very specific kind of anxiety, you know, you get when you really like someone, but you're not sure if it'll work. And I know the film was inspired by personal experience. Can you share a little bit about that with us?
Yeah, totally. I had met someone on a dating app, and it must have been in crossing paths, and we realized that we lived on opposite coasts, but we had this kind of crazy instant connection. And so we were talking for months, and you know, when we were finally able to have a weekend together where one of us flew across the country to see the other, I found myself able to let my guard down in this way I don't think I ever had before. And as that weekend came to an end, I also had to grapple with these double-edged swords of attachment and vulnerability in a long-distance relationship. This pivotal moment for me in my coming of age, I discovered, you know, really not only my capacity to love, but also my capacity to receive love. And
it was just this whirlwind romance. I think there was this added intensity as queer people kind of experiencing this. For each of us, it was kind of our first time experiencing something like where it felt like it really was a relationship and something serious. And I think we each had this moment where we realized that we were experiencing the whirlwind romance that we grew up thinking we would never get to have. And that added this extra layer of tension that made leaving very difficult. I think you're muted.
Yeah, I think you captured that really beautifully. Thank you. Yeah, congratulations. So our last film that we want to discuss is Query. And stories about sexual exploration between friends are often told through the lens of queer or bi-curious women. And I really, really enjoyed seeing that flipped on its head here. And it's done in a really believable way. What are some of the challenges you faced telling this story with two characters that are sort of archetypical, sort of like bro-y dudes? Maybe Sophie first and then Ryan.
So Ryan's actually wasn't able to make it, but so it'll just be me. But yeah, it's I think that was also, it's funny because that was, rather than a challenge, I actually found that was something that felt really exciting, in that I've never really seen these sort of typical bro-y dudes portrayed in this sort of way, in a more thoughtful, more deep way. I think a lot of the time these types of characters lack depth when you see them on screen, and I think that my hope was to sort of make a movie. I mean, it started as a conversation about how the Gen Z sort of this meeting has been upgraded. Sorry. That the Gen Z generation has sort of, it's a really special generation in that they challenge preconceived notions about sexuality more than any sort of prior generation. And I think that I like the idea of sort of turning something that we had seen on its head. We've seen this a little bit, as you said, with females, but not this way. And I think part of it was writing, being fortunate to write for two really brilliant actors and having them be friends of mine and to sort of tailor it for them, and knowing their chemistry sort of prior to knowing that they were friends. They weren't close, but they wanted to work together, and they had sort of done a little bit of work together in the past, but they were excited about it, and they were excited about the fact of sort of turning something on its head. And in terms of challenges, oddly, there weren't a lot. We actually, from sort of inception to picture lock, it was about a month and a day. So it was a very, very quick process. We sort of came up with this story. Ryan wrote a first draft in 20 minutes. I sort of spent the next 2 weeks sort of tinkering with it. And then we were shooting like 2 weeks to the day later. And then it was a one-day shoot, because part of the sort of excitement of coming up with this idea was sort of built from the restrictions. I didn't have a whole lot of money. So I was like, what story can I tell, in a day, in one location, two actors, sort of with a setup and a payoff, because I didn't have a huge amount of like funds. So I thought, and I think it's also exciting to sometimes, and I'm also a victim of this with short films, I find that you bite off more than you can chew. You sort of want to tell a much bigger story than you can in a very limited amount of time. And I felt like, well, what really sort of simple, elegant story can I tell in a small amount of time? And it kind of sort of fit. And then we shot, and 2 weeks later we were picture locked, and it was a very, very seamless, that was like the sort of best case scenario of things coming together in a really sort of organic, easy way.
Yeah, that's a really quick time to do a short film. And I think all of the films in this program have achieved that, in terms of telling a lot of story in a short period of time, and that's really challenging to do that. I think you all achieved that. Is there anybody, we're just about out of time, is there anybody that I missed? I think I got everybody.
Just me. I'm with Team Ira. Gary and I were.
So if, we have a minute if you want to add anything about your film. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I guess just thank you so much for letting us be a part of Outfest, and we're super excited to be here. And I guess just, you know, sometimes you get a question about the future. The future for Ira is we're hoping to turn it into a feature film. So we're really excited to use this, you know, and go to the festival circuit and meet a lot of people, and hopefully make it a larger story where we really are able to bring this intergenerational, like, uncle and nephew relationship to the screen, and we're really excited about that. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and I think a really great place to wrap up. So thank you again for all of your work, and thank you for joining us at home for the Q&A. And if you're watching, please check out more of our program, which is available on the Outfest platform through August 30th. We've got some amazing films. We hope you can check them all out. And thanks again to everyone, and stay safe. Bye, guys.